I befriended a stranger on the internet so that I could feel like I had like a family, like everyone else, or something. I don't even know, honestly. And just, you know what? I know how this goes. Okay, so we can just, please, can we just not do it? Please.
Hi friends, I thought I would speak about a new film that I've just screened that will be coming to theaters very soon. It is called Bob Trevino Likes It. It is written and directed by Tracie Laymon. She is a filmmaker from the US who's been working in film, primarily some music, video direction, and short films. So she's no stranger to festivals like South by Southwest, which is where this feature film premiered last year. About a year ago exactly. And in the story, we meet two characters named Bob, hence Bob Trevino, and Lily Trevino. They are played by John Leguizamo and Barbie Ferreira, respectively. And they are people who meet online while Lily is looking for her, I guess, her dad on Facebook, and she has a fractured relationship with her biological dad. She's trying to make sense of it. She's trying to find familial connections and feel validated and seen and cared for. And somebody with the same name as her dad ends up befriending her on Facebook, and they develop this interesting back and forth. In times when we often talk about social media being kind of negative, this is a story that kind of gives us the positive side of social media. And the characters are so well developed and so real that I really enjoyed watching this film. This film also stars French Stewart, who plays Lily's real biological dad in this film. And there are other supportive characters such as Lauren Lolo Spencer as Daphne, Lily's friend and somebody that she works with, and Rachel Bay Jones, who plays John Leguizamo's wife, Jeannie. And just the way that the characters are interconnected works really well in this film. There are so many layers in this film. It is a coming of age story. It's a late coming of age story, as Tracie Laymon describes it in her notes. And it is a film that shows us what it's like to be vulnerable, but sharing that vulnerability with others and feeling like we're connected beyond the physical. And it's more about our experiences as human beings that sort of bring us together and ultimately allow us to find connections emotionally and find good friends. It is a film that talks about chosen family, which is a concept that I'm familiar with because I have my chosen family outside of my own family, and it is something that I think will resonate with many. I know it's something that we talk about in my friend group, and I don't know, there's so much to say about Bob Trevino in terms of the way that the story develops. It is sort of a short time span. It's about a few months that we meet Bob and Lily, and they get together and all the things kind of lead up to their friendship. And there's also another layer to the film where we notice that sometimes we have to let people go, and that is a situation between Lily and her own biological father, where that there's just a fracture in that relationship that most likely will not be repaired, and that's okay. And it's not Lily's fault, and that just happens sometimes in life, and sort of being able to come to terms with that. There's also an aspect of this film that I appreciate where we see Lily fumble as she sort of grows up, quote unquote, and continues to grow up into an adult that is understanding her place in the world, understanding that she does not need to be a people pleaser, and kind of accepting the support of others and finding the right support systems for herself. So that's part of the reason why I really enjoy this film. I appreciate it so much in terms of the story, but there are other aspects of the film that are great. The cinematography, you have John Rosario as cinematographer and Anisha Acharya as editor, and they've done a really, really good job in visually giving us things to look at in terms of their camera movement and angles, and in terms of the editing by Acharya. I know she worked closely with the filmmaker to kind of give us this final version of the story that hits us at the core. At least that's how I describe it. I'm not going to talk anymore about the film because I hope that you go to the movies to see it. Bring your friends, bring your chosen family, and I will leave you with my interview with Tracie Laymon so that you can learn more about this film. Hi, friends, it's IDM, and I'm in the virtual room again. And this time I am joined by writer director Tracie Laymon. Tracie, so lovely to be here with you.
Hi, thanks for having me, Heidi.
So we were just joking before in terms of getting ourselves organized here online. I know you've been busy. You're promoting your latest film. Bob Trevino Likes It. Congratulations! It's such a journey since last year's premiere.
Yeah, it's I just actually had to pop into Austin for one night. It was crazy, just one night, 2 nights ago, and it was exactly 1 year since our premiere. And
Oh wow,
yeah, and I was like, wow, a lot has changed in a year. You hope for the best, and you just don't know. And
for
sometimes
sure.
things catch fire, and sometimes people can relate to a certain film, and there's plenty of amazing films out there that I feel very lucky, that people are responding to this film.
How would you say that journey's been over the last year? Some
It's
highlights.
it's really interesting. I went out with the film. We sold to roadside attractions domestically, U.S. and Canada, and I am extremely grateful for that. And before we sold to them, I was really, the whole time really, I've been going to festivals, and I was um, getting out there and just, meeting people from all different backgrounds, from all different demographics, all around the U.S. and abroad too. Myriad Pictures is handling our international, and I went to Spain and Portugal and Australia, and I was just s- every single time surprised that the theaters would be sold out, and that people would come up to me afterwards, people that, whether it's an elderly man or a teenage girl or, just everybody, from all different walks of life. And I think that's been really, really empowering because, as a storyteller, you want to have an effect, a positive effect. Or I think most people want to have a positive effect on people, and they want their films to resonate. And this story is so specific, and I think the biggest shock for me was how universal that specificity really is. And
I think
I still have, I spent 20 years on the festival circuit with shorts and music videos and everything. And so, I've used miles to get myself to a film festival and passed out postcards outside the venue when there's only three people in there trying to get people in. So when I show up to a venue, I kind of every time have this thought like no one came, no one's here. And then they'll say, no, it's full. They're all already inside or something. And I still can't believe it.
for sure. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're sharing that because there is such a journey as being a festival, a filmmaker that goes through the festival circuits and sees the ups and downs. And it's
Yeah.
nice that you've come full circle now and you still remember where you're coming from. I think it's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and to be frank, I didn't get in a lot of the time into South by Southwest in the middle. Like I got in with my first, it was a short form music video that I did. It was the very first one I directed, and it won the jury prize for best music video at South by Southwest. 20 years later, I get in again. And in between, there's 4 or 5 or 6 projects in between that I submitted that did not get in, just telling that to anybody listening who thinks, if you don't get into something or if you get a door shut in your face, no, you got to keep going. There's other doors, just keep going. And then made this feature and got in again and won again. So I don't get in all the time, but when I get in, I win.
I love it. I love it. It's such, I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster, but I mean, it kind of segues perfectly into this film because this film is such an emotional journey and it's so beautiful. I mean, I'm sure you've been told people have cried over this film, and I did too. But, I don't know what it's like in hindsight. But when you sat down to write this out, because it is based on your experience and you connecting with someone online when you were searching for your father, you know, what sort of in hindsight, what are some of the parts of the film and the story that you always knew that were going to be pivotal when it came to making this film?
I think, the important thing to me for me was to stay true to my emotional truth and to the kindness that I received. And then everything else I felt okay fictionalizing because it had to be cinema, But the
Right.
important thing was my vulnerability. For me, it was the kindness of a stranger, how it affects you. I did meet meet a stranger with my I was looking for my dad. I put his name on into Facebook, accidentally friended another man with his name who ended up being kind to me, just for the sake of kindness. And it was really, really healing for me. It changed my whole life. And um, I just really felt blessed by that. And I thought I have to share it. You know, if you get a gift like that, you know, it could have gone the other way. It could have gone in so many other ways. And I'm not saying everybody should go meet everybody. Every young person should go meet every, you know, older person on the internet, but or any person for that matter. But if you find you know, to be open to the kindness around you and to be open to the fact that there are people that do care. And just because maybe you didn't come from that, or maybe the people around you aren't treating you or seeing you or valuing you the way you deserve, doesn't mean that there aren't other people out there. And sometimes we dismiss those people and we keep going back to the people that, you know, don't
Mhm.
right. And they say don't go to the hardware store for milk, you know, but a lot of us do. And we're like, why
Right.
don't they have milk? You know, like they've never had milk. Like that's not what they sell here, you know?
Mm.
So yeah, it's just been an incredible journey of healing. And I thought my healing was done. I thought, oh, I wrote it. I had made this friend and he helped me heal. And now, and I wrote this, I'm done. And then, you know, the whole last year I've been crying happy tears, tears of
Right.
catharsis, connection with strangers, who, you know, my story really kind of became our story. It's not
Right.
just my story anymore. So,
Mhm.
it's just been a really beautiful, beautiful journey, you know.
Yeah, I can see that too. And I will say, I'm really appreciative of the casting that you have. It's not a huge cast, there's some supportive characters, but because it's such a personal story, I wanted to ask you what your dialogue was between, so you have John Leguizamo who plays the Bob character, and then you have Barbie Ferreira who plays Lily, and I guess it's your alter ego here.
Yeah.
So what were those conversations like with the three of you in terms of the layers that are written in the script?
Well, you know, the minute I met them separately, I met Barbie first,
Hmm.
and the minute I sat down with her, I knew she was going to get it. You know, I just knew. I was paying attention to her work, and she's just extraordinary in every way. And I knew she was going to get it. Sat down, and I was like, yeah, I knew it. I knew she was going to get it. And it was easy. It was like old friends, and you know, I had her back on the film, and she had my back, and we both really showed up, and just you know without speaking for her, I can just say that, you know, we all have similar experiences, and sometimes when we're collaborating with other people, we find that we're not all so different, and then where I didn't want her to be me, you know,
Yes.
but if she can bring her truth and then and I can tell her my truth, and then we find Lily in the middle here. Well, that's the point of the whole movie, kind of, is that we're not, you know, we're all going through this stuff, and we're all a little broken, and we can help each other heal.
Yes, and that's a line that he says in the film, right?
Yeah, yeah. He says we're all a little broken, but you're gonna be okay.
We're gonna be okay. And I
Yeah,
think sometimes we just need to be reminded of those very simple lines that we often forget because, we tend to overthink a lot.
yeah, yeah. And John is just so phenomenal in the film as well, and you know, just this kind of understated, nuanced, interesting
Hmm.
guy that's so fresh. And you know, I tell people a lot of the time, I said I wasn't casting actors, I was casting hearts.
Right. Hmm.
And if you look at Barbie Ferrer, John Leguizamo, or even French Stewart, because sometimes you have to be very kind to play unkind well, you know, Rachel Bay Jones or Lauren Lola Spencer, everybody, they are the best hearts in the biz. Like you don't get better human beings than this group, you know. So and
True.
John says sometimes that, or I've heard him say that, you know, sometimes he's becoming something else in his character. He's becoming that. And in this film, he was becoming himself. And
Mm.
having gotten to know him, I'm like, wow, he really is just this genuine, kind soul. And again, when I was like, I know he's gonna get it. I've been watching him my whole life. I know he's gonna get it. I know it.
Right.
And sure enough, he not only got it, but knocked it out of the park, you know. So
I will say it's one of my favorite roles of his. I mean, I've been watching him for many years too, and I will say it's the most grounded I've seen him in a role.
oh wow, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. I mean, I loved, you know, I don't know if you've seen him play Raymond Santana Sr. in When They See Us, but like that's a conflicted, powerful
Yes.
dad, you know, and in The Power, he also plays a dad. So I'd gotten to see him a little bit playing a dad, but this is a little, yeah, just a little more, you know, just everyday situation, a little more, you know. But yeah, he's so wonderful, and you know, I've sometimes when the edit, I was in the edit with Anisha Chara, my incredible editor, and sometimes I was very clear on what I needed, and I think that we did pretty well with not doing too many takes and all that. But sometimes I would realize then when we were working the edit, I was like, oh wow, okay, this scene I actually need this to be different than I thought. I wish I'd gotten one of these from him. And Anisha would say, he gave that to you. He gave that to you in one of the takes. He did that. And then we'd look and I'd be like, wow,
Like
he
that.
was giving me, these veteran actors, they've been around, like he's just an icon and a veteran, and he knew to give me choices. And so there were at least a couple times where he threw something out there that saved the day.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was hearing that French Stewart was kind of connected when in the writing process through his wife, and he was so appreciative of this role because it's not what he normally gets.
Yeah, I think in many
Yes.
ways, a lot of our actors were playing against type, which,
Mm.
but I'm very good friends with French Stewart's wife, Vanessa Stewart. She's a great writer and she's in my writing group. And she said, French is going to sit in tonight if anybody has anything for him to read. And I was like, what? I was like, what role do I have for French to read in group? And I was like, oh, okay, you can play Lily's dad.
Right.
He didn't even have a name yet. That's how early it was. And so he read it, and we were all blown away. And it was a cold read of a rough draft,
Oh
and
wow.
we were blown away. So he actually read in the group. He ended up reading both parts, but I knew I was wanted him for the biological father. And so I said, listen, you're amazing. I'm going to put this film together. I'm going to come back. Give me like a year. I'm going to come back. And I never went to anybody else. He was always the one for me.
Mhm.
And I'm just glad he was patient with me and, he just knocked it out of the park as well. So,
Absolutely. Like you said, some people are outside of, their normal in these roles, but he knocked it out of the park, like you said.
yeah.
So it seems like you created your own chosen family in this film. Can you talk a little bit about the experience in terms of filming and the connections that were made through that process?
Yeah, I not only with the cast but also with the crew. My producers, Sean Mullen, Edgar Rosa, and Felipe Diepa, as
Mhm.
well as executive producer Carl Evanson, who's been extremely gone above and beyond. And there's many more people I can mention, but
Yes.
everybody had my back, and that was something that was overwhelmingly beautiful while shooting, for someone who kind of grew up thinking that people didn't have their back, to be like, okay, well, I'm showing up, I'm giving everything, I'm being vulnerable, and I can lean on these people and they've got my back, and they are trusting me, and they're showing up for me and this film that we're creating together. And so you know that you cast the cast, but you also cast the crew,
Yeah.
and you're really creating this environment, and it really does trickle from the top down. So if I had, producers or somebody that wasn't getting it, didn't have the same values, that would have kind of soured the water.
Mm. Right.
But I think from the top down in a cast and crew in every department, we had really, really wonderful people. And I'm known for interviewing a lot of people before I make a decision, and it's because of that. Because I'm like, how are you going to treat people when things
Mm.
are stressful? How are you going to, be in 2 months, 2 months down the line?
For sure. And I mean, deadlines, change, funding, all of that
Yeah.
will impact production, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of ties into this idea of like small kindnesses and just being nice to one another that you kind of want to tell us through this film. And I like in your notes how you talk about these stories are needed now, but also kind of these late coming of age stories, which I think
Yeah.
we don't get often. Can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that and how that resonates for you, I guess?
Sure. I feel like I'm still coming of age, right now.
Me
And I'm
too.
like, I'm like, does it ever end? I don't know.
It won't.
And there's something so beautiful about that, because who wants to, what if you come of age? What does that mean? You don't change anymore? You don't grow? Like, that's no good. So I really love late coming of age stories because I think they give us hope that it's never too late, and that, we all have kind of I feel like we're all kind of children in adults' bodies. We're doing our best,
Mm,
and deep down we're all a little scared, and we're all a little broken, and just like a kid, and we're doing our best, and we want, to love and be loved and to be seen and heard, and basic things you wanted when you were a kid, you still want as an adult. And so
right.
we just find strange ways to go about that. Stranger and stranger ways.
Sometimes, yes. It's
So,
true. Or this awkwardness around being vulnerable or asking for validation.
Yeah, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes I equate it to kids learning how to walk and we're all fumbling, you know.
Yeah. And and giving grace for people's fumbling, I think is
Mm,
something to see, like you're taking a beat to see, hey, this person's not quite getting it right, but they really are trying,
right.
and the trying is certainly better than not trying. So how can we invite people in to be the best versions of themselves and to remember that um, they can be that, that we're not, I just, we're in such a divided time, and I feel like anything we can do to realize that we all belong and we're all valuable and and us and others as well. So that's kind of my goal with the film.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of leads nicely into what's next for the film. I know it's coming up later in March. Are there hopes that it will be wider release too? I know there's a website that will tie in. So
Yeah,
people,
so the website is bobtrevinolikesit.com, and we do New York, LA, Canada, um, um, Australia, New Zealand, I think, all on March 21st, which is crazy for
I
me.
love it.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm used to having like one screening one night. I'm like, it's going to be in all these different countries, and it's so beautiful. I'm never going to grow old from the excitement of it. I'm never going to let it get old. And then we go to like I think 25 or 30 more markets on the 28th, and then hopefully wider in Canada there as well. I don't have the cities list yet, but
It's all good. We'll find
yeah,
out
yeah, please let everybody know. Yeah, yeah.
online.
And then more markets, April 4th, I think. So we'll just keep going. If it does really well in the opening, a couple weeks, then I think it will help us stay longer. And it really is a communal experience, this film.
I
I
think
mean,
so.
great. Yeah, it's great to see it alone, but it's also great to see it in a room full of people that are all different and being laughing and crying at the same things. And then it's we need more of those kind of experiences right now. So if you can get to a theater, please do.
Tracy, my time's up. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Congratulations again, and we'll see you at the movies.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye, Heidi.
Bye.